On April 20th, 2026, the battlefield in Ukraine continued to reveal a dangerous paradox. In a war covered by UAVs, a vehicle that is smaller and faster is not always safer. Near Orlivka, Russian motorcycles appeared as a way to move quickly through Ukraine's fire zone. They can rush through small roads, tree lines, and open areas faster than infantry on foot. But speed is no longer a reliable layer of protection if the other side has already seen the route. A motorcycle may need only a few seconds to cross a road, but a drone also needs only a few seconds to turn that movement into a target. From Kharkiv to Avdiivka, close combat is changing in a colder way. A trench is no longer only a place where infantry face each other directly. A ruined house is no longer only a shelter. UAVs, FPV drones, RPGs, grenade launchers, mines, and infantry fire are being connected into one combat chain, where the side that sees first often has a better chance to survive. So why should the battles at Kharkiv, Orlivka, and Avdiivka not be seen as separate events? And what do they tell us about how Ukraine is taking back each road, each trench, and each residential area in a war where every movement can be watched from above? Let's find out with military force. Ukraine's close combat around Kharkiv, Orlivka, and Avdiivka should be seen as one connected pattern, not as separate firefights. These battles happened in different places, but they point to the same change on the ground. The fight is decided by small units, short distances, quick decisions, and constant observation from above. In the forested areas of the Kharkiv region, Ukrainian assault troops moved into ground that had previously been under Russian control. The operation began quietly, but the risk was immediate. Once Russian soldiers were detected, the Ukrainian side used suppressive fire, called for surrender, and prepared a small drone to inspect the trench system ahead. This sequence matters because it shows how modern infantry attacks now begin. Soldiers move on foot, but they rarely move blind. Before they enter a trench, a bunker line, or a tree line, they try to confirm what is waiting there. This lowers the chance of surprise, but it does not remove danger, because the final meters still belong to infantry. A drone can show movement and firing points, but it cannot clear a bunker. That task still requires soldiers to step forward. The same logic appears in other parts of the front, although the terrain changes. Near Orlivka, roads and approach routes became the important ground. Any force moving through them had to cross areas that could be watched by drones and covered by fire. Around Avdiivka, the fight became harder because the battlefield was shaped by ruined buildings, narrow passages, trenches, and damaged roads. Each location created a different problem, but the pressure was similar. Movement had to be fast, careful, and supported by information. Avdiivka was the heaviest part of this picture. By February 2024, Russia was pressing toward the city, supply routes were under threat, and Ukraine had to reinforce the area with experienced assault units, including the 3rd Assault Brigade. The fight there was not only about holding streets. It was about keeping units connected, protecting withdrawal routes, and stopping local pressure from becoming a wider collapse. These battles show how the war is being worn down at the smallest level. A road can matter. A trench can matter. A house can become a firing point, a shelter, or a trap. Forest belts near Kharkiv, roads near Orlivka, and broken streets in Avdiivka force infantry to fight in different ways, but each setting rewards the side that sees first and moves with coordination. Even a small tactical decision can carry wider meaning. A patrol route, a support position, or a delayed withdrawal can decide whether a unit holds together or becomes exposed. From this battlefield picture, the next question is how Ukrainian assault units organize each step when the fight moves from observation into close range under direct fire. Hydra Company shows how a modern assault is built through order, timing, and control, not through one sudden rush. The unit's mission was to take Russian defensive positions, but the method behind that movement is what matters most. Reconnaissance came first. A small UAV looked over the trench area, checked possible firing points, and helped reduce the risk of walking into a prepared position. Only after that did suppressive fire, grenade launchers, RPGs, and infantry movement become part of the same attack. In this kind of fight, the first advantage is often not firepower. It is knowing where danger may be before the assault team crosses open ground. A trench is not only a line in the dirt. It can contain covered firing holes, underground shelters, side passages, and soldiers waiting for attackers to move too close. When Ukrainian troops approached, Russian soldiers pulled back into underground bunkers and kept resisting from inside. That made the fight slower and more dangerous. A drone could help locate the position, but it could not force defenders out by itself. The assault team still had to use grenades, small arms, RPGs, and grenade launchers to break the defense section by section. Suppressive fire was central here. Its purpose was not only to hit the enemy, but also to limit what Russian soldiers could see, where they could move, and how quickly they could answer. That short window can decide whether an assault continues or stops. If defenders are pinned inside a trench or bunker, even a few seconds can let an assault group cross open ground, reach a wall, or get close enough to throw grenades. This is why infantry weapons remain important in a drone war. UAVs provide vision, but soldiers still need weapons that can hit a bunker entrance, a room, a trench corner, or a firing point behind cover. These tools allow the assault team to apply pressure without waiting for heavier artillery, which may be delayed, unavailable, or too risky to use near friendly troops. When both sides are only meters apart, the attack depends on fast choices and controlled violence. The hardest part was not only taking ground, it was keeping the unit alive while the fight was still moving. During the advance, Ukrainian soldiers had to evacuate wounded comrades under enemy fire. That turned the assault into several tasks at once. Some troops had to keep shooting, others had to provide first aid, others had to move casualties away from the most dangerous area. The unit could not pause the battle because someone was hit. If too many men stopped to help, the attack could lose momentum. If too few responded, the casualty might not survive. If covering fire weakened, Russian defenders could regain the initiative. Medical evacuation was therefore not a later stage. It was part of the battle itself. There is almost no clean pause in such fighting. The same pressure also affected command decisions. Leaders had to keep the assault moving while checking casualties, controlling fire, and watching for a possible Russian response from another angle. Hydra Company's operation also shows the limits of technology. The drone gave the assault team better information, but information did not remove the need for courage, timing, and discipline. Soldiers still had to enter dangerous ground, react to resistance, manage wounded men, and prepare for a possible counterattack. Modern tools changed the assault, but they did not make it clean or simple. This is why the operation matters beyond one trench or one defensive position. It shows how Ukrainian assault units combined sight, fire, movement, and evacuation into one close-range system. But when Ukraine uses drones and infantry to tighten pressure on Russian defenses, Russia must also change how it sends troops into the combat zone. That change leads directly to the next problem: how Russian troops try to cross exposed ground before Ukraine can strike again. Russian motorcycles near Orlivka show how battlefield pressure can push an army to choose speed over protection. This does not mean light vehicles have become stronger than armor. It means movement itself has become dangerous. When drones, mines, artillery, and prepared infantry positions cover the approach routes, commanders look for any way to shorten the time their troops spend in open ground. A motorcycle gives a small assault group several advantages. It is fast, narrow, and easier to move along village roads, tree lines, broken tracks, and damaged terrain. It can pass through places where heavier vehicles may slow down or get stuck. It costs far less than an armored vehicle, and it can be used without forming a large column. For Russian forces, this makes motorcycles useful for quick rushes toward trenches, probing moves, small troop drops, or attempts to cross exposed zones before Ukrainian fire reacts. But this advantage is fragile. A motorcycle protects movement, not the soldier. There is almost no armor between the rider and the battlefield. A near miss from artillery can wound or kill. A machine gun burst can stop the movement quickly. A mine can destroy the vehicle and block the road behind it. An FPV drone does not need to defeat thick armor because there is no thick armor to defeat. Even small fragments can turn a fast assault into a collapse within seconds. Near Orlivka, this danger becomes clear. A Russian motorcycle unit began its attack, but Ukrainian forces were waiting along the route. That detail changes the meaning of speed. If the route is unknown to the defender, speed can reduce exposure. But if the route is already watched, speed may only bring the target into the kill zone faster. The riders may believe they are crossing danger quickly, while the defenders have already measured the road, chosen firing angles, and prepared to strike when the formation reaches the right point. This is why motorcycles create a hard trade-off for Russia. They can help troops move through dangerous space faster than walking, but they reduce the chance of survival once the attack is detected. A soldier inside an armored vehicle may still have some protection from fragments and small arms. A rider on a motorcycle depends on movement, surprise, and luck. If any of those fail, the vehicle becomes less like a tool of assault and more like an exposed signal moving across the battlefield. The wider trend is important. Military analysts have linked the growing use of motorcycles and ATVs in Ukraine to the spread of drones and the heavy losses suffered by traditional armored movements. When large vehicles are seen early, they can draw FPV drones, artillery, mines, and anti-armor teams. Smaller vehicles are an answer to that problem, but not a clean solution. They reduce size and cost, yet they also reduce protection and staying power. For that reason, the Russian use of motorcycles near Orlivka should not be treated as an isolated battlefield oddity. It reflects a larger adaptation under pressure. Russia is trying to move troops through a battlefield where the open road has become dangerous, the tree line may already be watched, and even a small approach route can be turned into a trap. The motorcycle is not only a vehicle, it is evidence of how much the front has changed. But the reason motorcycles appear leads to the next part of the story. Their rise cannot be separated from the drone sky, where every movement can be observed, tracked, and turned into a target before soldiers even reach the line of contact. UAVs have become the main layer that connects sight, fire, and movement on the Ukrainian battlefield. They are no longer only small cameras above the front. In many engagements, they work like the eyes and nervous system of a unit, sending information before soldiers move and helping weapons strike with better direction. This role begins with early reconnaissance. A drone can look over a tree line, trench, road, or damaged building before infantry enters the most dangerous ground. It can detect movement, confirm whether a position is occupied, and show where defenders may be hiding. For Ukrainian assault teams, this changes the first minutes of a fight. Instead of advancing into silence, they can build a clearer picture of the area ahead. That picture may still be incomplete, but even partial information can save lives when the distance to the enemy is short. The second role is fire control. Once a target is found from above, soldiers on the ground can use grenade launchers, RPGs, rockets, artillery, or small arms with better direction. This matters most in places where the human eye is blocked by walls, smoke, trees, and broken concrete. A firing point behind a window can be hard to see from street level. A trench corner can hide a defender until the last moment. A drone reduces that blind space and helps turn scattered fire into organized pressure. This does not mean every strike becomes perfect. Wind, signal loss, electronic warfare, dust, and confusion can still break the link between the drone operator and the assault team. Batteries run down. Screens can lose clarity. A target can move between the moment it is seen and the moment weapons are fired. But even with these limits, the side that keeps a drone in the air often has a stronger chance to understand the battlefield faster than the side below. The third role is direct attack. FPV drones have changed the meaning of air support at close range. They can enter a trench line, chase a vehicle, or strike a room inside a damaged building. In a closed space, even one explosion can shock soldiers, break their rhythm, and force a rapid change of position. The effect is physical, but it is also psychological. Troops know that danger may come from above, from a doorway, or through a gap that seemed too small to matter. This pressure forces both sides to change behavior. Infantry must move in smaller groups, avoid predictable routes, hide under cover, and reduce the time spent in exposed areas. Evacuation teams must think about whether a casualty route is being watched. Commanders must decide when to push forward and when to stop before a drone turns movement into a target. UAVs, therefore, do more than improve one weapon or one unit. They reshape the entire battle rhythm. They decide when soldiers move, where fire is directed, how positions are checked, and how quickly a threat becomes visible. They also make hiding harder, because cover on the ground does not always mean cover from the air, especially when a drone can circle, return, and watch again from another angle quickly. When UAVs, FPV drones, and ground fire begin working together inside ruined urban space, the pressure becomes even sharper. Avdiivka is where those changes collide most clearly. Avdiivka was the place where the drone war and close combat became almost impossible to separate. Ukrainian troops were not only holding ruined houses and trench lines, they were also trying to pull back under artillery fire, FPV drones, small arms, armored vehicle pressure, and mines. In this environment, withdrawal was not a simple movement away from danger. It was another form of battle. The fighting inside and around the city forced units to move through broken houses that once offered shelter but could quickly become traps. A window could serve as a firing point for a few minutes, then become too exposed once Russian fire found the position. A wall could hide a squad from one direction, but not from a drone above or a shell landing nearby. This is why Ukrainian soldiers had to keep shifting from one building to another, using doors, rooms, and damaged streets as temporary cover. When the enemy position was unclear, Ukrainian troops used suppressive fire, grenades, and rockets to reduce the distance. That method was dangerous because the closer the assault team moved, the less time it had to react. Russian forces answered with artillery, FPV drones, and defensive fire from hidden or hardened positions. The result was a battlefield where every step had to be judged. Moving too slowly could allow Russian fire to lock onto the group. Moving too fast could push soldiers into mines, expose streets, or rooms that had not been checked. The withdrawal from Avdiivka should be understood in the same way. It was not only a decision made on a map, it was carried out by small groups under pressure. They had to keep contact with nearby units, move wounded soldiers, avoid watched routes, and look for gaps through streets already shaped by shelling and debris. A rescue vehicle or armored support could help, but it could also become a target. If one vehicle hit a mine or blocked a route, the danger could spread quickly to everyone behind it. In such moments, survival depended on timing, discipline, and the ability to keep moving while under constant threat from several directions each day. By February 2024, Avdiivka had become one of the hardest battles of the war. Reuters reported that Ukraine withdrew from the city after months of heavy fighting, while Russia presented the capture as its biggest gain since Bakhmut in May 2023. That wider context matters because the scenes of house-to-house movement and casualty evacuation were not isolated moments. They were part of a larger fight over whether Ukraine could preserve its forces while Russia tried to turn pressure into control. Avdiivka therefore shows the cost of urban combat in a drone-covered war. Holding ground matters, but so does keeping the unit alive long enough to fight again. From this city, the question becomes larger than who held one district. It becomes how soldiers survive when buildings, trenches, roads, and evacuation routes are all watched and attacked at the same time. Urban combat in Ukraine shows how hard it is to survive after a position has already been found. In a city, a building can protect a squad for a short time, but it can also become a marker for artillery, drones, or infantry fire. This pressure turns every house into a temporary position. A doorway may lead to cover, but it may also open toward a watched street. A basement may protect soldiers from fragments, but it can trap them if the exits are blocked. A trench may look empty from one angle, while another part still holds defenders under cover. The unit that survives is often the one that keeps checking, moving, and correcting its picture of the battlefield before the enemy does. The same pattern appears in trench fighting. Ukrainian troops can use drones, grenades, and suppressive fire to isolate a Russian position, but the final control still has to be confirmed by infantry. After a long exchange of fire, a remaining Russian soldier may surrender, or others may be removed from the fight. Even then, the area is not automatically safe. Soldiers must inspect the trench, fire into uncertain corners, check underground shelters, and make sure no defender remains hidden. Drones can reduce blindness. FPV attacks can shock defenders. Artillery can weaken a trench. Yet control of ground is still proven at close range. That is why these battles matter beyond one street or one trench line. They show a battlefield where UAVs, infantry, artillery, FPV drones, light vehicles, fortifications, and urban cover are tied into one chain. Each part supports the other. Each part also creates new danger. The side that sees first can act faster, but the side that survives close contact still needs discipline, coordination, and endurance. This makes local actions feel small on a map, but decisive for men trying to hold a room or clear a trench. All these details lead to a larger conclusion. Small battles in Ukraine are revealing the new shape of ground war. The battles around Kharkiv, Orlivka, and Avdiivka show that the ground war is changing at its smallest level. A squad, a road, a trench, or a ruined house can now carry weight far beyond its size. Russia may use motorcycles to move faster through exposed areas, but speed loses value when drones already watch the route. Ukraine may use UAVs to find targets, but soldiers still have to enter the trench, clear the room, and pull wounded men out under fire. This is the central lesson. Modern war has not ended close combat. It has made it more visible, faster, and harder to survive. Every army watching Ukraine will have to rethink infantry training, vehicle protection, drone defense, battlefield medicine, and withdrawal under pressure. The future of ground war may be shaped as much by small decisions as by major weapons made under drones, fire, and fear in close range. War is not only about weapons, vehicles, or territory. It is also about the cost paid by soldiers, civilians, and entire societies when political decisions turn into violence on the ground. If you want to understand how modern wars are fought, and why peace is always more difficult but more important, subscribe to Military Force and keep following our battlefield analysis.